One of the contributions of the promised Messiah is he established the fact that the Messiah, Jesus the Messiah, was dead from the Holy Quran, from the Hadith, and this is a very important point because most of the Muslims think that the Messiah or the Jesus is still in heaven, alive, and he will come back. Could Hazoor explain this point?
Yes, it's a very important point. I'll do that. But unfortunately, today it is not right to say that most of the Muslims believe that he is alive in the heaven. They have started retreating. They have started abandoning their first line of defense and finding shelter behind the second one. The ulama at that time, when Masih Maud declared this Jesus' death in accordance with Allah's revelation, was the most hated man, became the most hated man in the world of ulamas of Islam. And right from Arabia till all the corners of the earth where Muslims were found, they said, this man has forfeited his right to live. He declares Jesus to be dead. They were united in this opinion. Jesus is alive. And why were they so angry with that declaration that Jesus is dead? Because they thought their life depended on Jesus. Life of Islam depended on Jesus. Unless he came, there will be no hope. And Hadhrat Muhammad himself has repeatedly bound Jesus' reappearance with the resurgence of Islam and revival of Islam and spread of Islamic message once again. So that could have been the reason why they were so unforgivable in their attitude to Hazrat Muslim. But Hazrat Muslim stuck to his ground. He said, this is true, and what he said, on the other hand, was the most beautiful rebuttal to the mullahs. He said, let Jesus die, because it is the life of Islam which depends on his death. As long as he is considered alive, Islam will never become alive. It's like a seesaw. Let Jesus die so that Islam may live. This is the most beautiful statement. In one short sentence, he debunked all their arguments and shook them up to see things in reality, what they actually were. The rise of Christianity was the one deadly factor against Islam. And it could not be reversed without declaring that their so-called Son of God is dead. Christianity would crumble down and completely demolished, razed to earth. So this also is the meaning of breaking of cross. The mullahs think, still many of them think, that when Jesus was to come, he would turn his attention to the physical sign of his torture and his torturous death, that is cross, and he would start breaking them. And he would travel far and wide. Every country will be visited by him, every home where there is a cross. And he would start breaking them and throwing them away. Now they don't offer any formula for the reconstruction of crosses by those whose crosses are broken. Because if external cross is broken, the internal is not broken thereby. If somebody demolishes a Muslim mosque, how can he completely abandon the very concept of worshipping in the mosque? He would try to build another, like we have always been doing. In Pakistan, so many Ahmadi mosques are demolished. We build others and others and others. So how could the cross within the hearts of the Christians be broken? So he would start breaking them, but at a faster speed than he can break. There will be other technicians and mechanics and laborers, experts in this art, they will be making the crosses. If for one they will make 100 out of revenge for him. So will he spend eternally occupied with this profession of making crosses? But anyway, Hazrat Masih Maud pointed to the fact, look here, for God's sake, don't attribute such meaningless things to Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah. When he mentioned he would break the cross, it only meant that he would break the very basis of Christianity, the very backbone of Christianity, so that the cross would not be worshipped thereby. And this was the one single stroke of genius, aided by Allah, of course, which made Ahmadiyya a most powerful and victorious agency of Islam against Christianity of all forms. You see, even today this is working and they don't see it. They have only abandoned the idea because they think that if we continue to believe in Jesus' return, he has not so far. And Ahmadis are after our skin. They say, produce Jesus, where is he? Or admit that the Jesus, the representative Jesus has come. So to get rid of this nuisance, for 100 years, we have been demanding, all right, produce the real Jesus if he's alive. It's all right, do away with it, he's dead, no more. Where did he die? When he was risen to heaven, did he die there? And if not, then what is he doing, living eternally a material life, and would he not be returned to the day of judgment, and he will not be raised again? If he dies there, then where will the mullahs take this verse? فِيهَا تَحْيَوْنَ وَفِيهَا تَمُوتُونَ وَمِنْهَا تُخْرَجُونَ. So will Jesus deny, give a lie to the statement of the Quran? So they don't enter these implications. They shut their eyes intentionally. When the common people, Muslims, ask them, all right, what about Jesus? Why doesn't he come? Are the Ahmadis right that he is only to appear metaphorically as representation? They forget about it. It's unimportant. Jesus, let Jesus die, we do not care. He is not important for us. So they've gone back and completely reversed their previous stance of 13 centuries. They were waiting, and when he came, they completely reversed their position and said, Jesus, let Jesus die, we don't care. It's not important for Islam. Only recently, this edict was issued in Saudi Arabia. Some Maulvi, in answer to the question, he said, it's unimportant, it doesn't matter. In one of the newspapers, somebody wrote to me that this was recently published. As far as the life is, it's unimportant. The traditions we speak of it are not very strong. So let him die. If you let him die, what about the interpretations of the Holy Quran? You can't dismiss the statement of the Holy Quran as Zaif Hadith. And you have been insisting throughout the last many centuries that the Holy Quran tells you that Jesus is still alive and has been lifted to heaven. What about that? So this is all excuses, dishonesty. But Hazrat Masih Maud turned the table against them. How beautifully, one twist of the hand. People say sleight of hand, but that is an expression applicable only to magical show. There's one little twist and the whole table is turned against them. He said, Jesus did not die upon cross, although he was crucified attemptedly. But crucifixion did not reach its objective and it failed to kill him. It was only an instrument of death. And as such, it is true to say he was not crucified. The example Hazrat Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was not murdered. He was not killed by sword, despite the fact that an attempt was made. Many attempts were made. In Jang-e-Uhud, ordinarily the situation was so dangerous that he could have died if Allah had not specially protected him. So attempted murder, attempted crucifixion do not mean, if they are deprived of their end product, which is murder. Having said everything, Hadhrat Masih concluded that Jesus died a natural death. He did not outlive the normal span of human beings and prophets. He is returned back to his God. So that Jesus which Ahmad prophesied would come, was to come metaphorically in his, as a representative of Jesus, in his spirit, in his attitude, in his approaches to the problem, and in the treatment which will be meted out to him by his own people. He would be very similar to Jesus Christ. Now this was the whole controversy. And now, as I have already told you, these people are not saying that it's an unimportant thing. Whether Jesus lives or does not, it doesn't make any difference. Even the Holy Quran is proved to be wrong according to us, according to them, I mean. It doesn't make any difference. Let Jesus die. Lest people believe in Mirza Ghulam Ahmad to be that Jesus which is prophesied. This is the nutshell, the problem in a nutshell, right?
There is a remark. I remember that I read one of the ulama from Dimashq or Palestine wrote, that's 40 or 50 years ago, that Jesus, yes, he is dead. What is the problem? But we cannot submit to them that Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, if Jesus is dead, then no one is coming. So he is not the Messiah who is coming.
So this is what I'm saying.
So they are ready to...
They are, first of all, this is the two-pronged answer they gave. First of all, they say, let Jesus die. It is not an important article of our faith. This is what they say. And if he is dead, what then? Mirza Ghulam Ahmad of Qadian could not be the one Muhammad Rasulullah spoke about. Because they say if he is dead, then all the traditions are false. That is their problem. They do away not only with the Quranic statement, but with all the traditions speaking of Jesus' descent from heaven. No, it didn't say from heaven, it isn't descent in the world. So this is the, this is the heinous crime they commit for the sake of avoiding accepting Masih Rasulullah. First, they have to according to their own understanding, they have to misinterpret Quran now. If our interpretation was wrong and they were right, then now they are ready, without changing their mind, without agreeing with Ahmadiyya logic, they are ready to misinterpret Quran lest they should, their attention should be drawn to Masih Maud al-Islam. He's dead. And then we say, all right, if he's dead, then how do you interpret these traditions? We speak of the coming of Jesus. We say, obviously then it means that it is a metaphorical Jesus. Someone is mentioned who would come in his character, in his spirit, in his this and that. And they say, no, you forget about it. If we can do this to Quran, why should we be able to do it to the Hadith? We'll go one step further. About the Quran we say our interpretations are wrong, all right, leave it as such. About the Hadith we say all such Hadiths are man-made, were concocted after Muhammad ﷺ, and none is true. So whatever your ulama have been doing for the last 1400 years, all of them. So there's no logic in this stance.
Yes.
Now there is one other thing which I want to further elaborate. I said they cannot now change their attitude to this without renouncing the Quran. Why I said it? Because at the time of Hadhrat Masih, these ulama, all their fathers and elders unitedly drew the attention of Masih to the verse وَمَا قَتَلُوهُ وَمَا صَلَبُوهُ وَلَكِنْ شُبِّهَ لَهُمْ وَإِنَّ الَّذِينَ اخْتَلَفُوا فِيهِ لَفِي شَكٍّ مِّنْهُ مَا لَهُمْ إِلَّا اتِّبَاعَ الظَّنِّ
ما لهم به من علم إلا اتباع
ما لهم به من علم إلا اتباع الظن وما قتلوه يقينا. They recited it with loud voices and said this positively shows that Jesus was not even initially attempted to be crucified. They said there is no other meaning but this. Remember this because I am coming back to it. Then they read on and said, immediately after this there is a verse, وَإِن مِّنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ إِلَّا لَيُؤْمِنُنَّ بِهِ قَبْلَ مَوْتِهِ. आगे क्या है?
Yes.
They interpreted it and they all told Masih to be false when he offered other explanations. They said it simply means that Qabla Mawtihi means before the death of Jesus Christ. So the Holy Quran is very clear and specific that all the people of the book would believe in him before he dies. And he said, we know that all the people have not yet started believing in him. So how could the Quran be wrong? So he cannot die until entirely all the people of the book believe in him. Now, these are the two arguments from the Quran which they gave. And they told Masih that you are wrong. My question is, what has happened to these verses? Why don't you have the honesty to tell the whole people, the whole world, that we transgressed against justice? We were liars. We misled the Ummah when we said that Masih Maud's interpretation was wrong. Admitted that he was right, the one man was right, we were all wrong. When you do that, then you have to admit that the one man who you think is an impostor, he is the only one who knows the meaning of the Quran. And all those who accuse him of being an impostor, they're all false. They don't know what Quran is. So these are the implications. They cannot avoid them. And then will come another implication. Complication of the issue implied in this. And that is, they say, the Holy Quran says, وَمَا صَلَبُوهُ وَمَا قَتَلُوهُ. They say, according to the Arabic, we know, when it is said that وَمَا صَلَبُوهُ, the person cannot even attempted to be crucified. United opinion of all the non-Ahmadiyya ulama was this. Arabic language has not changed. The grammar remains the same. The dictionaries are the same. Now, when you say that he was not crucified means he never was even attempted to be crucified. Now, if you have said tawbah to the previous view, now tell us what the new view is. If he was not crucified, who was the man who was crucified? Where did Jesus disappear? If he didn't go to heaven, where he disappeared, what happened to him? The end of such a prophet has become so obscured, and you think the Holy Quran doesn't speak anything about it? And what about the second verse? If he is still alive, only then this verse is right, according to you, that all Ahl Kitab would have believed in him. So they have not believed in him, and according to you, he must continue to live if the Quran is right. So now to prove yourself to be right in rejecting Masih Maud, you are daring to practically declare that the Quran was wrong. You understand the point? It's a very, very, very serious crime they are committing. It's not just, okay, doesn't make any difference. Now I turn back to the verse last quoted by me. وَإِن مِّنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ إِلَّا لَيُؤْمِنَنَّ بِهِ قَبْلَ مَوْتِهِ وَيَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ يَكُونُ عَلَيْهِمْ شَهِيدًا. Now this verse is interpreted by them, as I told you earlier, that all the people of Ahl Kitab, without exception, each person among them, would one day believe in Jesus Christ before he dies. So they say this is the clear meaning, it cannot be interpreted otherwise. Which means that Jesus will not die until this happens. And when he returns, when they see him again, then they will all believe in him. And no Ahl Kitab would be left who will reject Jesus Christ. Only and then only will he die later on. Now, this is the scenario. Now I turn to the last bit of this verse. وَيَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ يَكُونُ عَلَيْهِمْ شَهِيدًا. Why will he not be shaheed upon them in this world? They have believed in him in this world, according to them. Each one has rejected his old belief and accepted Jesus as the true prophet of God. And yet, the Holy Quran says he will bear witness to them in Yawm al-Qiyamah, not in this world. But that is not all. The problem is that if you believe that all of them got converted to whom? To Jesus Christ, Christianity. Then what about this verse of the Holy Quran, which says, وَإِذْ قَالَ اللَّهُ يَا عِيسَى إِنِّي مُتَوَفِّيكَ وَرَافِعُكَ إِلَيَّ وَمُطَهِّرُكَ مِنَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا وَجَاعِلُ الَّذِينَ اتَّبَعُوكَ فَوْقَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا إِلَى يَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ. If all of them were to believe in Jesus Christ before his death, which would actually be before the Qiyamah, then who are the people left over about whom God is saying that till the day of judgment or resurrection or doomsday, whatever way you translate it?
It should be the Muslims.
Those who reject you, those who believe in you, our Ahl Kitab are mentioned. Those among the Ahl Kitab who do not believe in you will be always under the power or inferior to those who believe in you. So if all have believed in him, who are these people who till the day of judgment will continue to reject him? Another verse of the Holy Quran goes overboard. And we don't see this. While it is impossible, it's a scenario which is unthinkable. But now I come to the last point. They say despite this verse, Jesus has died. Despite this verse, nobody can claim that the majority of Ahl Kitab, all of them in fact, have become Christians. Yet, if he dies, doesn't make any difference. Doesn't make any difference to the mullahs, but to the Quran it does.
Yes.
Why don't you see it? According to them, if this is true, then this verse means that Allah Ta'ala told a lie. Na'udhu. He said, before Jesus' death, all the Ahl Kitab would have become Christians, and they say he let him die, maybe he is dead, despite the fact that this prophecy has not come true. So they can't escape the fate of being false. They try to escape on this side, there is one, spare, with impaling them with their falsehood. Try to turn the other way, then another spear impales them to prove that they are wrong. Right? You see, men play many tricks with this verse. They have been. So they have to undo all those tricks. In their debate with Hazrat Masih, they emphasize the role of Nun-e-Saqila. They said, don't you see that in Arabic, when the Nun-e-Saqila is used with Mudare, it always means a thing of future. So this verse simply means that in future this will happen, from the time of Hazrat Muhammad or from the time of crucifixion, whichever way. In future it will happen that all the Ahl Kitab would do this. Now they are being criminal, in fact, playing criminal in doing injustice to the usage of Arabic. Because Nun-e-Saqila is only applicable to their act of belief. It does not cover the generations of the future. The generation which is spoken of is the present. Their act of belief is what is covered by Nun-e-Saqila as to happen in future. You understand the point?
No.
In min ahli kitabe is not thrown to the future because of Nun-e-Saqila, which will come later on. Nun-e-Saqila only applies and remains confined to the prophecy that they will believe. That's all. But it does not say that these people are not yet born. It does not say that Ahl Kitab who are present, they're exempt from this. So the first meaning of this verse should be, whenever it becomes operative, it means that Ahl Kitab, which are present, they will believe in Jesus Christ in future. That is Nun-e-Saqila. And they will have to believe, otherwise cannot happen, they must believe before his death. But the people of Ahl Kitab were there already. They should have believed in him before his death, which means they should have continued to live along with Jesus Christ. So if you apply Nun-e-Saqila also to the Ahl Kitab, not only Jesus, but Ahl Kitab would also live eternally. Otherwise this verse would be wrong. But I point out to another explanation, because otherwise they can ask us, if this is wrong, then what is your explanation? I can offer you something which cannot be criticized. My explanation is that when you say im min ahlil kitab, you have to admit that there is a word hazaf in between. And they consider the word ahadun as mahzuf. In ahadum min ahlil kitab illa la yu'minan bihi. This is the Arabic style and the Quranic style. Every person who has any knowledge of Arabic style, Arabic language, would understand immediately. All the great scholars of Islam has interpreted the whole Quranic verses with this principle, that sometimes a word is mahzuf, which is understood. And if you search the right word, then the meaning would be right. If you offer another word, maybe that is not the meaning. So the problem they have created for themselves is that they consider that in ahadum min ahlil kitabe is the meaning and import of this verse. I, on the contrary, believe that in fariqum min ahlil kitabe is the true expression of the Quran, and it speaks of the prophecy which got fulfilled, that Jesus is not killed because he has yet to perform a function. All the 72 sects of Ahl Kitab are not present here. A large number among them have already been turned out of their homeland. And unless Jesus pursues them and each of the sects is represented in believing in him, his mission will not be complete. Now, where is the objection against this? You understand?
Yes, Hadhrat.
in fariqum or whatever other word you may think, the Holy Quran is not speaking of each individual, because if it does, then the whole verse will become meaningless. It speaks of the groups of Ahl Kitab, and this is supported by the Old New Testament, because Jesus told them once that he would leave them and go in search of the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Without conveying the message to all of the Ahl Kitab, his mission could not have been completed, because the Holy Quran does not say Rasulun ila juzum min Ahl Kitab. It says Rasulun ila Bani Israel, right? So all Bani Israel, in whatever dimensions, in whatever denominations they are found, they must be conveyed the message. And we know that they had got split into sects and also into groups. 12 groups, and then multiplied by 6, they became 72. So when you understand it as fariq being the missing word, everything falls into perfect step and becomes understandable. Right? We add to this, Jesus was also present.
Now,
it was known as Akhila did not make him reborn. Otherwise, with Ahl Kitab, Jesus will also be born, a new Jesus will be born, because he is under the influence of Nun Akhila. Last, if they don't accept my explanation, okay, what right have they got, despite this verse, to understand that Jesus is dead? If I'm wrong in this explanation, show us how from this verse they can prove that Jesus is dead. It's impossible. If their argument is right and mine is wrong, then they have to continue to believe they have no right in presence of this verse to say that it doesn't make any difference whether Jesus is alive or dead.